esquis.
Ei, o que é isso?
Oi gente, tudo bem? Eu vim aqui pra avisar vocês que tá faltando 1 minuto, né? Daqui tá 9, era pra tá 10h24 agora. Foi um erro que aconteceu aqui. Peço desculpas a vocês e vamos prosseguir na live, né? Vamos ver esse lançamento, que é o lançamento da SpaceX, né? A Anasis-II Mission, né? Eu vou assistir aqui junto com vocês, então eu espero que vocês gostem. Já deixem o seu like, se inscrevem no canal. Lembrando que todos os créditos das transmissões vai para a SpaceX, senão a gente não estaria fazendo essa live. Muito obrigado. Espero que vocês gostem da live. Só para atualizar vocês, agora está faltando 9 minutos e 32. Queria pedir desculpas também pelos... Queria pedir desculpa também pelo áudio, que não deve estar muito bom, né? Porque eu estou fazendo em live é mais difícil corrigir alguns problemas. Mas espero que vocês gostem. Já se inscrevam no canal. Se inscrevam no canal. Deixe uma mensagem no chat. Muito obrigado pela sua inscrição se você já foi inscrito. E vamos esperar o lançamento.
Howdy, stranger.
Desculpe, essa vai ser a última interrupção que eu vou fazer da musiquinha. E eu vim avisar que eu vou fazer a contagem regressiva. Estão faltando agora 6 minutos e 37. Faltam 6 minutos e 37. Na hora que der os 10 segundos eu vou fazer a contagem regressiva. Eu peço para os senhores sentarem numa cadeira confortável, pegarem um refrigerante, uma pipoca e esperar o lançamento. Muito obrigado e esperem o lançamento. Espero que vocês gostem do lançamento. Se vocês quiserem mais lives como essa, se inscrevam no canal e dá um like. Muito obrigado. Pessoal que tá aí no banco dos comentários, poderiam me falar como é que tá a live, que eu não estou vendo, eu só estou vendo o chat. Se tá bom, se tá ruim, se a música tá boa. E esses negócios, muito obrigado. Agora está faltando exatamente 3 minutos e 30. Só para atualizar vocês, agora está faltando 1 minuto e 40. A live já vai começar. Bom, agora vamos aguardar a SpaceX liberar a live aqui pra gente, que aí eu já começo a transmitir aqui pra vocês. Bom, venho trazer notícias para vocês. A SpaceX pôs mais umas meia horinha pra fazer a live, então vamos aguardar mais meia horinha. Bom, oi gente. Eu vou deixar a música bem baixa aqui, porque a SpaceX disponibilizou é, os controles de áudio aqui e eu vou pôr aqui pra vocês, ok?
that generally produce their work the next day.
Bom, gente, eu vou tirar a música aqui para vocês conseguirem escutar aqui no centro de controle de áudio, ok? Na hora que a SpaceX liberar a live pra gente, eu ponho aqui pra vocês. Bom, lembrando as novas pessoas que estão chegando, já se inscrevam no canal, já dá o like e muito obrigado.
spacecraft is on internal power.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
Good afternoon. It is Monday, July 20th, and on your screen is a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket as it awaits its 5:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida. My name is Michael Andrews, and I'm a supply chain supervisor here at SpaceX. And welcome to our webcast coverage for the Anasis-II mission. Our customer today is Lockheed Martin on behalf of the Republic of Korea. Per the customer's request, we will not show payload deployment today. However, we will stay live on the webcast and bring you verbal confirmation of spacecraft separation. We are just at under T-minus 11 minutes and counting, and all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this afternoon. But if for some reason we are not able to launch today, we do have a backup window tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now let's take a closer look at the vehicle that will launch payload today. On your screen is that view of Space Launch Complex 40 with the Falcon 9 rocket. It's our two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle getting ready for liftoff. Falcon 9 stands at about 230 feet tall, 70 meters tall. That's greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is the first stage. It's designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment between flights. And as you can tell from the re-entry soot on that first stage, it's pretty easy to spot a flight-proven booster. Today will be the second flight for this particular first stage, and actually less than 2 months ago, it was the one that launched Bob and Doug to the International Space Station on our historic Demo 2 mission. At the bottom of that first stage, there are 9 Merlin engines. They get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the thinner parts of Earth's atmosphere before separating from second stage and making its way back down to Earth for landing. And it's this part of the rocket we will attempt to recover for a second time on our drone ship, known as Just Read the Instructions. You can see it there. It's stationed 350 nautical miles east of our launch site. And above the first stage, above that black interstage band, is our second stage. At about T plus 2.5 minutes into flight, the first and second stage will separate, and that second stage will ignite its single MVAC engine. That'll carry the Anasis-II spacecraft to its intended orbit. And the Anasis-II satellite is currently safely enclosed inside the 17-foot diameter payload fairing. It's that structure on the very top of the rocket. This protects the satellites from aerodynamic heating, loads, any kind of contamination that they might experience during ascent. But once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need those fairing halves, and we jettison them while the second stage continues to orbit. The fairing halves we're using today are a brand new set, which means we'll be attempting to recover them today using our 2 recovery ships, Mystery and Mischief. 2 minutes before the fairings are set to land, the team will decide if conditions are good to make a safe catch attempt. Now, weather plays a big factor in the decision, as it can impact not only the sea states for the boats, but also altitude, position, and speed, all of which impact how the fairing will fall back to Earth. And finally, around the Falcon 9 rocket is that large truss structure. It's called the Transporter Erector. We call it the TE. The TE rolls Falcon 9 to the launch pad and raises it to that vertical launch position, and also routes things like power, fluids, and communication to the rocket and satellite.
Hi, I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're coming up on 8 minutes to launch, and all conditions continue to be go for launch. Falcon 9 rolled out to the pad Sunday afternoon about 25 hours before launch and went vertical 4 hours later. Now, more recently, the SpaceX launch director held the go, no-go poll for both payload and launch. That was done at T-minus 38 minutes. Now, we're currently working, no issues on the Falcon 9 launch. If we do have to call a hold on today's launch, we have a nearly 4-hour window that could allow us to reload the ultra-cold liquid oxygen and make another launch attempt today. Of course, that presumes that we understand whatever caused us to hold the count and we can safely proceed with a recycle and launch. Now, if we cannot continue today, we have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, we've been loading propellants on Falcon 9 since T-minus 35 minutes, putting fuel into both stages and oxidizer into the first stage. Our fuel is the refined form of kerosene known as RP1. The fuel is fully loaded on the second stage, and we're going to finish loading the first stage in about another minute. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, our oxidizer is super chilled liquid oxygen. We call it LOX. Now, the LOX is currently loading into both the first and second stage. You can see the mist streaming off of the first and second stage tanks.
Stage 1 engine chiller started.
Now, I mentioned it is super chilled. We do this in order to load more LOX into the tanks and increase performance. Typically, launch providers use LOX right near its boiling point of about 300 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. At SpaceX, we chill the LOX about 40 degrees colder. That makes it denser. It lets us load more into the first and second stages. Now, we have to load the LOX as late as possible to keep it from warming up and decreasing the performance. We're also finishing helium loading onto the first and second stage tanks. Now as the Merlin engine pumps pull the RP1 and locks out of the tank, we need to fill that emptying volume that we call the ullage. We use the helium stored in pressure vessels on the stages, and it's heated by the exhaust of the engine's gas generators. Heating the helium helps it expand to fill the tanks. Now a moment ago at T-minus 7 minutes, we heard engine chill begins. We're now allowing a small amount of the super chilled liquid oxygen to flow past the turbopump inlets. That's cooling them down to avoid thermal shocks when we light the engines at T-minus 2 seconds. And on the spacecraft side, the team did transition the Anasis-II payload to internal battery power starting inside of T-minus 30 minutes. That work is complete, there are no issues, and there are no further actions required before launch. We're launching out of the eastern range. The good news is air and sea space is clear. Weather balloons that have been released show the upper altitude weather. We did have to delay the T0 3 minutes for a small rain shower crossing the trajectory path. That was moving out of the way, so right now weather looks to be good for a launch in just over 5 minutes as all systems continue to be go for liftoff at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
As we mentioned earlier, our customer today is Lockheed Martin on behalf of the Republic of Korea. We now have a quick message to share from Korea's President of the Agency for Defense Development.
안녕하십니까. 국방과학연구소 소장 남세규입니다. 코로나19로 어려운 환경에도 불구하고 아나시스-II 위성 발사에 헌신하시는 여러분께 감사드립니다. 아나시스-II 위성은 한반도 평화를 위한 것으로 한국의 IT와 우주 분야 연구개발의 한 단계 도약이 되길 희망합니다. 올해 창설 50주년을 맞는 국방과학연구소는 아나시스-II 위성 발사의 의미가 저도 코로나19 상황으로 발사장에 직접 참여하지 못해서 안타깝게 생각합니다. 비록 물리적 거리가 멀리 있지만 지능적인 온라인상 사회적으로 가까워진 거리와 시간 때문에 저도 마음은 발사장에 계시는 전문가 동료 여러분들과 함께하고 있습니다. 락히드 마틴, 에어버스, 그리고 세상에서 가장 스마트한 펠콘 9 발사체의 발사를 주관하는 스페이스X 모든 분들의 노력에 감사드립니다. 아나시스-II 위성은 대한민국 국방부, 방위사업청, 합동참모본부, 각군 관계자와 특히 함께 연구한 국방과학연구소 위성통신체계단이 응원하고 있습니다. 아나시스-II 위성 발사와 목표한 궤도내 시험까지 성공하길 진심으로 기원합니다. 우주의 신들은 하늘길을 열어라. 펠콘 9 나가신다. 아나시스-II 완벽하라. 감사합니다.
We're currently 3.5 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. The vehicle remains in good health. Now, in that video, the transporter erector strongback did retract to the launch position, moved a couple degrees away. That's what we need, sufficient for liftoff of the Falcon 9. Fuel loading is complete on both first and second stages. The liquid oxygen loading is wrapping up on the first stage and will complete at T-minus 2 minutes on the second stage. Now 1 minute before liftoff, you'll hear the announcement that Falcon 9 is in startup. That means the rocket's internal computers on first and second stage are controlling the launch countdown. Now the mission manager reports the Anasis-II space vehicle continues to be go. The range continues to be green for launch, and the weather is looking good. Now once again, as a reminder, if we don't launch today, we have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. 2.5 minutes to launch. We have closed out the first stage liquid oxygen load. That just leaves stage 2 LOX loading to finish. That call out tells us that the chill sequence that began at T-minus 6 minutes is now complete.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
That completes propellant loading on the Falcon 9. Stage 2 LOX load, the last one to finish up inside of 2 minutes. We'll now begin venting down the plumbing lines that go up that strongback that you see behind the Falcon 9. So if you see a plume of white gas coming out, that's normal.
Ground gas closeouts is starting.
You can see in the view from the camera, we're now venting down the liquid oxygen lines on the strong back, getting ready for launch. Next event will be startup, coming at T-minus 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Falcon 9 is in startup. Stage 2 tanks pressing for flight.
The call out. We're in startup. We're now pressurizing first and second stage tanks for flight.
LD countdown net. LD countdown net. Go for launch.
There we go. The final call to SpaceX launch director is given to go for launch. We're at T-minus 35 seconds and counting. All systems are go.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. Stage 1 tank pressing. Team pressing. 10, 4, 9, 3, 8, 2, 7, 1, 0. 5, 4, liftoff. 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. M1 propulsion is nominal. M1 propulsion is nominal.
Plus 40 seconds. Everything looking good? That's the call out. Says M1D engines are throttling down, getting ready to reduce vehicle acceleration and preparation for the period of dynamic pressure. We're in the bottom of the throttle bucket, as they call it. Now the Merlin engines coming back up to full power as we get ready to go supersonic.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Supersonic, we're coming to the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Guidance engineer confirms we're through the period of greatest pressure on the vehicle. Continuing downrange, trajectory looks good. Propulsion looks good. Avionics looks good.
MVAC chill has started.
That announcement from stage 2 propulsion. We're
MVAC
now beginning to chill
started.
in the turbo pump on the upper stage engine to get ready for its ignition, coming up in about 45 seconds. Nice view from the SpaceX cameras at Cape Canaveral as we head east out of Space Launch Complex 40 into the first of 2 orbits planned for today. This orbit is the parking orbit, a low Earth orbit trajectory that will take us over the equator and will relight the upper stage engine to transfer us into the desired geostationary transfer orbit. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, coming up in several seconds, followed by pneumatic separation. The first stage pushes away from the second stage, and then ignition of the second stage engine.
Stage separation confirmed.
MECO on time. Stage looks good. And the call out MVAC-D engine is at full power. The left screen, you can see the large titanium grid fins now slowly opening. That begins about a 2-minute period as we slowly rotate the first stage around to get it ready to come back through the atmosphere and land on the drone ship Atlantic off the east coast of Florida. Right hand side, second stage engine glowing red. Normal for the MVAC-D. Trajectory is nominal, we've heard from the guidance engineer. Great views coming from space. We're coming up fairing deploy.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And we heard the call out from the avionics engineer. Fairing separation is confirmed. I think you can see in the back behind the MVAC one half of the fairing way in the distance past the camera. So right now we're coming up 4 minutes into flight. Trajectory is looking excellent. We're right down the middle of the road. Power on the stage engine is good. Bermuda is now getting the telemetry from the Falcon 9, and we're getting great from space at T plus 4 minutes and 13 seconds.
For those of you joining us, we had a successful liftoff of our Falcon 9 rocket at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral. On the right side of your screen, our second stage, its engine is glowing as we continue to take the Anasis-II satellite payload to its desired orbit. On the left-hand side, our first stage. We're beginning our recovery attempt out in the Atlantic Ocean. The next milestones coming up include that first stage's entry burn, followed by the second stage engine cutoff, the SECO-1, the first stage landing burn, and then that hopeful landing. The entry burn will occur at about 6.5 minutes after liftoff. And what you don't see pictured here are those two fairing halves. They've been jettisoned, and it will take some time for them to get down to sea level. So we won't be covering the webcast that recovery status, but stay tuned on social media for updates. You see some pretty clear pictures of Earth there. The first stage has reached apogee. It's beginning to head down there. We're only firing 3 of our Merlin engines during this entry burn in order to slow the vehicle down before it gets to the thicker parts of Earth's atmosphere. It'll slow the vehicle by about 25%. When we perform stage separation, that first stage was traveling about 2.5 kilometers per second. So we have a lot of velocity to reduce.
Great.
And we're just under 30 seconds from that entry beginning. It's going to last about 24 seconds. We're 10 seconds away from entry burn. Hopefully we'll be able to hear that call out and have visual confirmation that burn's begun.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Our entry burn has begun. You'll see that the exhaust there will grow and start to become elliptical as we turn on the engines. The center engine fires first. The 2 side engines fire shortly after that. So that exhaust will seem to grow during this burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
All right, 1 burn down, 1 to go. That's the landing burn. It'll occur in about 1 minute from now, along with the next milestone, the second stage engine cutoff, or SECO-1. That'll be at T plus 8 minutes and seconds. During SECO-1, we shut down the second stage MVAC engine on the right-hand side of the screen.
Also signal first stage, Cape Canaveral expected.
In about 5 seconds after SECO-1, Falcon 9 will touch down, hopefully, on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. Currently, it's in the Atlantic, about 350 miles off the coast of Florida.
Start of terminal guidance. Start of terminal guidance.
And in terms of velocity of that first stage, drag alone is slowing the first stage down another 80%. That landing burn will take us back to get that last 20%, touch us down safely. Just under 10 seconds from landing burn and SECO-1.
Stage 2 FTS.
SECO.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
SECO.
We have confirmation of both landing burn and SECO-1. We're waiting confirmation of a good oral insertion.
Stage 1.
So laser deploy now.
Nominal park.
And there it is. That is our 57th successful landing of a Falcon 9 on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. While we're watching that landing, we also had confirmation of nominal orbit elevation.
Stage.
All pretty excited over here at SpaceX for being able to use this first stage for a third coming up. But going back to our primary mission on the second stage, it's going to coast for about 18 minutes until we cross the equator, where we perform the second of 2 burns of the upper stage to help change the orbit. We're going to take a break until then. We're going to leave you with a map of where we are in the mission. We'll be back at about 26 minutes for the second burn of our MVAC engine.
Also signal Bermuda as expected. Also signal Bermuda as expected.
Bom, oi gente, eu vim comentar um pouquinho aí sobre o lançamento aí da SpaceX, né? E, cara, eu achei um lançamento bem sucedido. Foi, foi um bom lançamento. Vocês viram que coisa interessante, né? O primeiro estágio do foguete voltou. Isso é o interessante da SpaceX, né? Que eles reciclam o, o lixo, né? O material que vai pro espaço reciclando. Isso é um negócio legal que eu achei da SpaceX, sabe? Isso é legal. Bom, algumas considerações. Esse satélite, se eu não me engano, que eles vão lançar da Coreia do Norte. A SpaceX fez o trabalho de lançar ela. E é isso, não tem mais nada o que falar. 17 minutos de lançamentos. Foi. É que nem estão falando no chat. Foi ótimo pra SpaceX, foi mesmo. E pra o mundo, né? Foi muito bom. Isso daí, porque agora. Também Brasil precisa de. Brasileiros precisam de mais. Sabe, Brasil precisa lançar mais satélite. Eu sei que a gente não tem uma condição muito boa, mas. Né, a tecnologia tem que ir renovando, né? Então, considerações finais. Foi um ótimo lançamento. Agora, quase 18 minutos. É, é isso. Então, eu vou deixar a live aqui rolando, assistindo aqui com vocês. A partir desse momento agora eu estarei abrindo o chat e conversando com vocês. Então, muito obrigado por terem assistido a live. Vamos continuar juntos até terminar aqui a live. E é isso. Um salve pro Extrema 2006 Destroyer. Um salve pra você, meu mano. Novo aqui, já deixa seu like, se inscreve no canal que você vai estar fortalecendo aí projetos futuros meus que ainda vão vir. Vão vir muitos projetos legais que vocês vão ver. Inclusive um projeto legal que eu tô fazendo, o projeto do meu foguete. Daqui a uns dias vão vir testes dos motores dele. Então, já se inscreva aqui no canal pra vocês não perderem nenhuma live, nenhuma. Para vocês não perderem nenhum lançamento de um foguete, notícias. E é isso, muito obrigado e até mais. Me perguntaram aqui do botão seja membro, eu tenho que ter mais ou menos uns 40 inscritos. Não sei quantos inscritos, eu acho que é mais de 1000 e ter a monetização, sabe? Mas um dia a gente consegue isso daí, vamos com calma, vamos seguir na vida. E agora, como vocês podem ver, daqui a pouco ele já vai soltar o Stage 2, que é o segundo estágio do foguete, né? Daqui a pouquinho ele já vai soltar. Aí depois que ele soltar o segundo estágio do foguete, eles vão soltar primeiro estágio, que é o de cima, que é o primeiro, né? Aí eles vão soltar. Na hora que vocês verem, na hora que eles saírem, o speed, que é os quilômetros por hora, que tá em 26.673 quilômetros por hora, a velocidade vai, se eu não me engano, né? A velocidade vai descer, ela vai diminuir e a altitude vai crescer, ok? Então não se assuste, é normal. Eu queria saber quem é esse Extreme Destroyer. Tô muito curioso pra saber. Aí, gente, agora estamos chegando perto do segundo estágio, que vai ser liberado daqui a alguns minutinhos. Vocês escutaram o que o cara falou? Que tá faltando, acho que alguma coisa de 25 km. Então vamos lá, ó. Vocês perceberam que já tá caindo a velocidade e tá aumentando a altitude? Aí, ó, vamos esperar o segundo estágio ser liberado. Ali, ó, pra vocês verem, tá escrito Stage 2 Telemetry. Eles já confirmaram que vai se soltar. Agora, vamos ver. Já tá chegando perto. Eles vão liberar o segundo estágio do foguete. Vamos lá.
SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. It's T plus 26 minutes. In about 30 we're going to get relight of the upper stage engine called second engine start number 2, actually second stage engine start number 2, or SES-II. Now this burn will be a little more than 55 seconds.
Eles já vão liberar o segundo estágio, hein? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vão liberar o segundo estágio. Ah não, acho que eu falei errado. Desculpa aí, galera. Desculpa. Acho que eles vão fazer a ignição dele de novo. Pra ele ir rápido, aí eles vão desprender. Se eu não me engano. Vamos ver enquanto isso a telemetria.
When we went into the burn, we were at low Earth orbital speed of about 7.4 kilometers per second. This burn, just under a minute long, is going to add another 2.5 kilometers per second to that velocity. That's what it'll take.
Eu acho que quando ele chegar nesse Soak 2 aí, eu acho que eles vão tirar, eu acho.
Transfer orbit. We're throttling down, getting ready to shut down the engine.
Eu acho que eles vão tirar mesmo.
Chico 2.
Aí, ó. Agora eles acabaram a ignição. Acabou o combustível. Aí, daqui a pouco eles vão tirar no segundo estágio.
And we haven't heard guidance engineer call out, but looking at the data plots that we've got from telemetry, we've got a nominal orbit.
Ali, gente, ó, que legal. Tá acontecendo o que eu falei pra vocês.
Falcon 9 second stage with the Anasis-II spacecraft
deixa
still
ele acabar de
attached.
falar.
We're now going to go through a period of about 3.5 minutes where we prepare to separate the Anasis-II satellite. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back at T plus 32 minutes for satellite deploy.
Bom, já que ele terminou agora de falar, ele vai sair de órbita, né? Ele vai sair. Aí então, o que eu queria falar? Vocês estão percebendo ali, ó, que a velocidade tá caindo e a altitude tá aumentando? É isso que eu queria falar pra vocês. Agora, quando chegar em deploy, se eu não me engano, eles vão desprender o segundo estágio do Anasis. Tá, então vamos esperar. Eles vão sair de órbita terrestre. Aí agora ele vai sair num raio pra ele orbitar, mas eu acho que ele não vai ser. Eu acho que ele vai orbitar a Terra, né? Porque eu não li muito sobre esse satélite, né? Que eles vão. O que eles estão lançando? Eu não sei se é um satélite, mas eu acho que é um satélite. Então vamos aguardar aí pra ele desprender do segundo estágio. Eu já falei pra vocês que você percebe que ali a velocidade está caindo e está aumentando a altitude. Então vamos esperar. Bom, tá chegando perto do deploy, vamos ver o que vai acontecer.
Acquisition signal, South Africa. Acquisition signal, South Africa.
Ele tá na África, né, África do Sul.
Plus 32 minutes. It's been a great mission so far.
Pronto, acho que agora eles vão... Deixa eu abaixar ele aqui. Pronto, vamos aguardar aí, né? Vamos aguardar. Vamos aguardar aí, eu acho que ele vai mostrar, desprendendo. Aí sim, a gente comemora.
We won't see payload deploy today per the customer's request, so we're going to listen in for the avionics engineer to call it.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there it is. Avionics engineer calls. Payload separation has deployed, confirming that telemetry.
Foi confirmado, eu acho que já desprendeu o segundo estágio, eu acho.
Primary mission, we've brought the first stage back to the drone ship. It's been a great day, took a little while getting here, but well worth it with a totally successful mission today.
And with that successful payload separation, that will end our coverage for today. We want to say thank you to Lockheed Martin and the Republic of Korea for entrusting us with today's flight. Also, a special thanks out to the 45th Space Wing for range support and to the Federal Aviation Administration for licensing support. And of course, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Bom, gente, pronto, acabou mais uma livezinha aqui da SpaceX. Vou tirar aqui. Bom, acabou a live da SpaceX, mas vamos ficar vendo aqui o Stage 2 aqui. Ah, eles finalizaram também. Então... é isso, galera. Finalizado a Anasis Mission, né? Eles finalizaram as lives, não mais a gente vê. Provavelmente daqui a alguns instantes eles vão soltar o segundo estágio, né? Que é o aconselhável, né? Eles soltar o segundo estágio do foguete e deixar aquilo rolar. Vocês viram, então. Para quem assistiu até agora, muito obrigado por assistiu, para quem acompanhou desde o começo da live. Eu vou finalizar a live por aqui. Muito obrigado mesmo para quem assistiu, muito obrigado para quem veio, se inscreveu no canal. Que na próxima live ou no próximo vídeo, no próximo vídeo, né, que na verdade vai ser amanhã, que eu vou explicar, né, explicar não, pelo amor de Deus, que eu vou explicar o que é uma órbita retrógrada, né, eu vou explicar, vou tentar